Today, we are thrilled to be joined by Dr. Stephanie Sigler. She has a PhD in clinical sexology, and she specializes in alternative relationships. Dr. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So she is, can you tell us a little bit about your practice and specialties and anything you want our listeners to know about you?
Absolutely. So I am ethically non-monogamous myself. And as I was going through my practicum for my doctorate program, I had a lot of my clients coming in and they were telling me that they could not see counselors for their ethical non-monogamy, that the counselors would tell them, well, it's because of you're open or because you're a swinger or because of whatever it looked like, poly, and you just needed Jesus. And if you had Jesus, then you would be okay. And so a lot of my clients were getting so frustrated because they weren't getting the help that they needed. And honestly, they just needed some assistance with working with finances or communication or trying to navigate the throuple. And I decided, because I was ethically non-monogamous myself and in the swinger community, that's what I wanted to focus on. And I have spent the last 5 years researching, focusing, teaching, you name it, about sex in open, and I call it alternative relationships. So I specialize in alternative relationships and all things sex.
Awesome. And today we are talking about something that's very near and dear to you, which is fighting fair, specifically in alternative relationships.
Is that even possible?
Right?
I thought you're supposed to fight dirty, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you say if you're not cheating, you're not trying?
I know. I said when you go lower, I go lower.
So I take it you guys don't.
Please tell
don't
us how to
argue well
fight
together?
fair. We don't know. We need all the help we can get.
So I'm taking it that you don't fight fair. Does that mean that you don't fight equally, or do you not listen and understand everybody's perspective? So can you give me an insight on how you fight?
I think I'm really bad at listening. I don't listen.
And I think we should cover all the bases today for our listeners' sake, because I'm sure with 3 people in each relationship and everybody being so unique, we're going to have everybody from the whole spectrum.
And there's a difference between what I want to do and I'm naturally inclined to do to what I actually do.
Yes.
I want to win.
Yes.
But sometimes I have the self-control not to.
That's so competitive of you. Interesting.
So that is very interesting. And it's interesting that he's the competitive one and you ladies aren't.
Liv is. Right?
Like competitive
okay.
how? I don't care if I win or not. I just think I'm always right. So
that can contribute to a very interesting dynamic. I will tell you that. So when we fight fair in relationships, how do you listen? Do you know your listening style?
No, definitely not.
Okay. Well, there are several different listening styles, and how we listen to our partners is very important, but also our body language is very important. So when you guys are talking in a very, I don't want to call it a heated conversation, but in a conversation, do you turn towards each other or away from each other?
I think I face you. Yeah, I always turn towards whoever I said
That's
I'm
the only
talking
way
to
to get the spit on.
Okay.
Be serious here.
So I have an acronym and it's called Tomcat, because Tomcats are sexy and we all love a good Tomcat. And this is a research-based approach. And so Tomcat means turn towards your partner. So if we're going to fight, we're going to turn towards each other and we're going to listen. We're going to have an open posture. If we have our arms folded, that is just cutting off all communication with each other. We're going to maintain eye contact. I am terrible at eye contact because I don't know, I'm ADHD. I look at everything. And also I have some hearing issues, so I need to read your lips. So eye contact is something I really struggle with. And then here's the big one. You can't interrupt. Oh my goodness. My ADHD brain, I think something and I need to say it immediately because, oh my gosh, if I don't, I'm going to forget, right? We have a hold on. I can't think of what I was trying to say. Oh, we have a workaround for that, right? And then we're going to ask some open-ended questions and we're going to take time to reflect. So have you ever heard of the Gottman Institute?
Yes, I'm just reading actually The Science of Trust right now.
Okay, good. Oh, that's such a good one.
It is. I love it.
So Yeah, the Gottmans have over 40 years of research, and he literally put couples into this fake house and evaluated them on how they argued, how they worked together, everything. And he compiled all of this data. And this data says that we have some specific ways that we fight and specific ways that we communicate. And so what we've got from that is we need to learn what our listening style is. So I'm going to tell you the 4 listening styles, and then I want you to tell me which one do you think you're. Okay, so first off, you can't answer for yourself. You have to answer for the person to the right.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So the first listening style is people-oriented. Positive. They're sensitive to people's feelings, the needs to understand thoughts and feelings of other people, and they focus on emotion during arguments. That's peopled. Content-centered. Need to know the details. Concerned with what is said rather than who said it. And they're testing the credibility of others and truthfulness. Number 3, action-oriented, interested in what will be done and the actions that will occur. They like the structure, they like the bullet points, right? And then the 4th one is time. We want to know how long it's going to take for you to complete that. And they don't like to waste time. So knowing those 4, the person to your right, what do you feel like they are?
I think Char's 3. She likes the bullet points.
And I think you're
Why is
2.
that?
The content.
Yes, the contents.
Yes.
I think you're 2, but I didn't understand. What was the time one? What was the last one?
The time one is they want to know how long it's going to take to complete this request. They don't care what it is. They just need to know, when can you get it done?
Yeah, I don't think any of us are that. I think Liv is more 2.
The content wants to know the bullet, or concerned with the credibility and truthfulness.
Yeah.
So if we're using that listening style, so we said people-oriented and content, correct?
No, people. Content.
No, he said I'm 3.
Josh is content.
I think 3, whatever the bullet point was, 3.
Oh, action. Oh, yeah. So here's some negative side effects to that. So for the content-oriented, you're going to reject some information because it lacks supportive evidence sometimes. And you may ignore the ideas and wishes of their partner because, can you prove it type thing? You have a very hard time accepting, I don't know. That's just not something you want to accept. You need to know. There's something there. Yes. And then with action-oriented, the negative can be, they may be critical of their partners and they have a hard time trusting others, and they may not be a very good listener.
Trust issues? What?
What? Not us. Not us. Right?
No.
This is exciting.
Never. I didn't know you were going to come on to call us out on our own stuff.
Well, welcome to Dr. Stephanie's world.
I like it.
I do too.
We just started a podcast because we couldn't afford therapy.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
And I'm telling you, it is what it is. So we're just going to go with it. That's what I tell everybody. It is what it is. Let's just go with it.
Yeah. I will say I like knowing what it is. So yeah, if there's something you can tell me about myself that I don't understand, let's get it out there.
Heck yeah. So have you heard about an iMessage before?
Like on an iPhone? Is this a trick question?
I knew you were going to say that.
It feels like that was a trick.
I don't think
An
so.
iMessage is an assertive statement.
Oh.
And it helps you state your concern and your feelings and your needs in a way that our partners can listen and understand, right? They can actually hear it. And so traditionally the I statements are, I need this. I want this. Those type of statements. But I do it a little bit different. So I have 4 parts to an iMessage. The first part is you have to state the behavior that they did that you don't like, that you don't appreciate. So you can say, when you talk over me, right? The second part is I feel or think. And I don't know if you're familiar with the plethora of emotions and feelings that are out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But traditionally, I want you guys to think about it. When you say, you know what, you're not listening to me, how does that make you feel?
Not important.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my opinions and my needs don't matter. At least
Okay.
not as much as yours.
Yeah, not validated.
Yeah.
Not validated. So when you talk over me, I feel unvalidated. I feel unheard. I feel unappreciated, right? Because you're not taking the time to actually listen to what I'm saying. That's number 3. Because, and we always say, because, why? And then the last step of that is I would prefer that you let me finish a sentence before you have an answer. Or I would prefer that you listen to understand instead of listening to respond. So what did I do there? Here's what I did. Instead of me saying, you never fucking, oh, can I cuss?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You never fucking listen to me, right? You're so hard-headed. You just don't fucking listen. Okay, well, number 1, you're going to make everybody mad. But if I were to say, hey, when you cut me off and you don't let me finish a sentence, I feel or think blah, 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 because I really think that you need to listen to me and understand what I'm saying, listen to understand and not listen to respond. I would prefer that you listen to understand and listen to respond. When we say that to our partners, so if I were to tell you, you never fucking listen to me, right? But if I were to say, hey, when you don't let me finish a sentence, it makes me feel unappreciated. It makes me feel unheard. It makes me feel insert any emotion. Do you feel like your partner wants to make you feel that way?
No.
Not on purpose.
Yeah.
I guess if
Not
they
on
would
purpose,
continue
ever.
the behavior after I've communicated how I felt, I would think they want to make me feel that way and they don't care about how I felt.
Traditionally, our partners don't want to make us feel that way. So when the next time you feel like they're not listening and that rolls around, they're going to think, oh, I don't want her to feel unappreciated. I don't want him to feel unheard. Instead of, why aren't you fucking listening to me? Right? So we internalize, oh, I don't ever want to make my partner feel that way. So what you're doing is you're asking for a behavior change and you're saying, hey, this isn't working for us and I need you to change that behavior and this is why. This is what it does to me. And we're not taught that. We are not taught how to respond, how to act, how to communicate. I don't know, that was not in my sex education class when I was in middle school. It wasn't in my life class and my template was just really messed up. So think about who is your template? Who taught you how to be in a relationship?
For me, it was probably my mother. And I know she didn't do a good job. Like we talk about it all the time, the way she would interact with other people taught me things that later in life I changed because she wasn't engaging like healthy communication tactics. It was always a lot of emotion, like back and forth and like crazy. And I realized like, I think my first serious relationship that I was doing a similar thing and it didn't feel right. And I purposefully started changing. I'm far from being really good at it, but at least I'm not doing that anymore. It's not just emotion all the time. But yeah, definitely parents, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think most of the examples I grew up with were negative. So you grew up, you're like, I do not want to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I grew up in a home where it was like emotion was, it was highly frowned upon. It was like, oh, you're showing emotion. You go on timeout in your room and you figure it out. You work it out on your own. And yeah, you learn to not show emotion, not to communicate emotion, not to communicate feelings.
So, Char, what you were taught is to sit there, be pretty, and shut up.
Yeah.
Don't feel.
Yeah. Do not mince words.
And-
yes.
Yeah. And Josh, you were taught there's no other way. It's going to be this confrontational way. And then we go to Liv, and Liv, you saw some very unhealthy patterns as you were growing and you're trying to change those, but you recognize them. Do you feel like you recognized them pretty early?
I did recognize them early, but then it took me 20 years to actually fix them. So I knew there were problems, but it was very hard to get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's so beautiful about this fight journal and the fighting techniques that I've like kind of come up with and the way that I had to design them for me, I had to design this shit because I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to argue. And all I saw growing up was abuse, severe abuse.
Yes.
And so we're not taught how to communicate and we're not taught how to effectively express what we need to people. Honestly, what we're taught is if we tell people what we need, we're needy.
Yes.
We're too much.
Yes.
No one's going to give us what we need. What are some other things that society tells us if we ask for what we want?
Selfish.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Prideful.
Is that like
You're
kind of what
stuck up.
they're
You're
telling us
snotty.
now to be selfish? I see that all the time on social media. Be selfish.
Yeah. Well, I guess the things
Yes.
are changing now, but yeah. I definitely grew
Well,
up
if we
in
aren't
the
selfish.
so that don't ask for things, be grateful for what you have. That type of mentality.
If you have needs that your partner doesn't want to fulfill, then you're not going to have a partner much longer.
Yeah, good point.
Exactly. And I am a firm believer that if everybody was in some sort of alternative relationship, the world would be a much happier place. Depends on what level of alternative you want to enter into, but even if it's just light swinging, soft swap swinging, that's going to bring you closer. If it's full on polyamory, that's going to bring you closer. And there's a spectrum. And so my thoughts is if everybody had some sort of like place on the spectrum, we would not have any problems in this world because we would all be happy. However, that's just my little old thoughts, and I'm just one little old person in the world that can't change everything. So,
but you're definitely right. Any kind of non-monogamous interaction, it forces you to look at yourself because it will wake up insecurities, issues that you may have with yourself or in the relationship. And if you're willing to see the problems, then you can become a better person by trying non-monogamy.
If you're willing to accept that you're not perfect.
Who is?
And you're willing to accept that you have to listen to understand and not listen to respond. In y'all's throuple, when you are talking, or let's say I'm just going to go out on a limb. Have all three of you ever gotten to a heated debate all together? All three of y'all?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time. All
Nothing
three
comes to
all
mind.
At the same time. It's usually one.
Usually we
paired
do
off
it
of the
2 by
dyad.
2. Yeah.
No, I don't really get heated per se, especially if both of them are getting the upbringing that I was raised in where you don't show emotion. If they're
She's usually
getting
the
frustrated,
referee.
I kind of clam up and don't get involved.
Liv
in
and I
that.
both get hot-headed and go at it sometimes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So
Then we have hot makeup sex afterwards.
There have been conflicts that involve all three of us, but not like all three of us.
Yeah, not heated.
Screaming at each other.
So, Liv and Josh, when you guys are heated, Liv, do you feel like Josh is listening to understand what you were saying, or do you feel like he's listening to respond? There's a rebuttal coming.
No, I think he's listening. I'm the one who doesn't listen very well. I'm the one who always listens to respond.
I'll tell you exactly what's going on.
I will tell you what the problem is.
She's got the ADHD thing going on, and when she thinks of something, she thinks it's going to win the argument. She got to get it out right away, interrupt.
Okay, I guess I am trying to win as well. I never realized that.
But me, I'm very quiet, and I listen to every word, and I record it all like I'm a detective, and I'm going to use this against her in the court of law.
You do that. That's terrible.
That.
Oh my God.
I'm going to win the long by playing the long
and
game.
you know that? And after that, he kind of sits on it and he waits a day or two and then boom.
Boom. Then I address the jury, which are my shampoo bottles in the shower for days. And I give them my side of the case.
We sound so stupid right now.
We are stupid.
And I listen to
So
respond.
how does that work out for y'all?
But I only respond like I have to sit on it and process it for like a day or two. I'm like, okay, I got to respond to all this stuff you said.
No, we know. So our first reactions are what we just said. And normally, if not one of us, maybe all three of us, we are aware of our shortcomings and we're working actively on them. And we do have arguments that actually solve things. We don't act childish like this. When it's stupid stuff, little things, yeah, we might get carried away. But when it comes to serious stuff, we actually are aware of how important it is that we communicate and we know our faults. And we do a really good job, actually. I don't feel like any argument that we have, it's one of those arguments that it will never get resolved. I feel like we always move a step closer to getting to know each other better and just having a good life together.
Yeah, we're more self-aware than the jokes. But we would definitely have a bigger fight over who ate all the Polynesian sauce and put the empty bottle back in the fridge than anything that was
Ever since we became a throuple, we've gotten so much better. Actually, our relationships, our dyad relationships are so much better than they were when we were a V, because we started as a V dynamic. And ever since we became a throuple, we've been forced to actually improve on ourselves, on the way we connect with each other, the way we relate to each other. It's been really hard, but also a blessing.
Yeah. Prior to the throuple, I thought I was really good at relationships because like Josh and I just rarely fought. And if we did have a fight or a disagreement, we would work it out without screaming. As I was like, oh, I'm so good at communicating, like da da da. And then you put me in a throuple, and it's like
different.
It brings up all of the weaknesses that you have just because there's so many dynamics, and it forces you to face things. And like you have a lot of moments of truth. Like, are you going to put in the work? Are you going to acknowledge first, see that you actually have something that you could work on, and then are you going to put in the work?
It's exactly what you were saying, Dr. Stephanie. Like moving from monogamy to non-monogamy. All of a sudden, you're out there. You thought you had everything figured out, and you don't.
Yeah, it pushes out. I used to have a horrible problem with silent treatment. I felt like that was a great way of dealing with things. I'm going to be silent to you until you figure out what you did wrong and you come and apologize to me, and I'm keeping you guessing. Liv didn't put up with that since day one. She was like, no.
And for me,
he seems a little feisty.
The silent treatment wasn't really a huge deal for me, mostly because it takes me a long time to process things as well. So he's feeling like he's teaching me a lesson by not talking to me. And really, like, I'm just over here processing, trying to figure out, like, what did I do? What did he do? What's the truth in all this? How do we
I didn't even really realize I was doing it until she pointed it out. So it brings the stuff to the surface, these bad habits that we developed from our parents or what we saw other people do. And we thought, oh, this is normal behavior. This is how you are in a relationship.
I love that you just said that, because we aren't, like I said earlier, taught how to do this. Mm-hmm. And I specialize in couples. They come to me, hopefully, before they've dipped their toe and tripped and fell on a dick at a swingers party or something. And they're like, we're thinking about opening up our relationship, and I just wrote a book for, it's actually going to be out in June, and it's about teaching counselors how to work with those in alternative relationships. And it's a step-by-step guide. And so it's like, what do you do first? Well, we have to figure out your motivation. Why do you want this? Number one, an alternative relationship is not going to fix your marriage, period. It's going to bring to the surface everything that you have ever hidden in your closet, every skeleton, every little bone, everything that you've had hidden there. An alternative relationship is going to bring it out, because we are putting ourselves in positions that society tells us is just absolutely incorrect, but also we're putting ourselves out there. It's not just us anymore. We're responsible for everybody that comes into our sphere, our world, whether we're playing with them, whether we're educating them, whether we're best friends with them. We now have a higher level of acceptance and a higher level of responsibility, because, and I hate to say it like that, but we really do, because we have to make sure that we're keeping our primary relationships safe, regardless of whatever it looks like. And it could be a throuple, it could be, I have a quad, I have pods, it can be anything like that. But those primary relationships have to be held sacred, because the outside world is already trying to tear us down.
It's interesting you bring up the skeletons in the closet, because like I've mentioned on previous episodes, Josh was my first everything. Like I was raised very, very religious and conservative, purity culture, bought the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. And he was my first boyfriend, you too. And I really felt like I was coming in with no skeletons in my closet. Yeah, at least as far as romantic relationships go, absolutely. But that, like I'm saying, like this brings up all those things from childhood and religious, and just any beliefs that you hold that you don't realize are in some way unhealthy. Like, boom, it's all going to come to the surface.
Things you didn't even realize that you were having held deep inside
of you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, invisible skeletons you don't even know. Yeah.
And if you don't know how to navigate those, it can destroy relationships. It can destroy lives. And so that's why I want to, if anybody listening, before you get into whatever you're going to get into, whatever the dynamics look like, make sure that you are ready for that. And I mean that in the wholehearted, like, this is not easy. People think, oh, it's so easy. You have 2 partners. You have 3 partners. Look at you.
You're
It's
having
so
your cake
easy.
and eating it too.
Right? It's the hardest thing I think I've ever done.
Mhm.
I mean, there are times that I'm just like, why? I just need to be like a monk or something. Just be much more. If I didn't have to talk to any of y'all, it'd be great. But it brings so much fulfillment and so much joy to my life. And I know it does to yours as well. And that's the beauty of this. People from the outside who haven't ever experienced this don't understand the beauty and the joy it brings to us.
Yeah.
Even though it is hard, and it's something that not many can do, honestly, unfortunately. I always say the lifestyle is for everybody, but it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing, turning the mirror to ourselves and looking in the mirror and saying, what do I need to change about myself so I can be better to my partner and to all the other people that's going to come into my life?
Yeah.
I find that most people do not want to work on themselves. They don't want to be told that there's something they need to fix about themselves.
Yeah. For me,
Absolutely not. That's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. For me, it's brought to light so many things that I never would have known. Just in being in a monogamous relationship, as beautiful as it was, like there's things like ancestral trauma, like, generational trauma, things that are coming to light for me. That's like, wow, like I almost passed this along down to our kids. Like I got to fix this, and I gotta like heal this so that this unhealthy behavior isn't perpetuated any further than this.
It's definitely more work. I mean, the inner work that you have to do to be able to do any type of non-monogamous relationship, requires more effort, which is why more people are attracted to monogamy. It's a little bit easier. But even, these failing monogamous relationships, they're not doing any work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just maintenance. So,
yeah.
I see couples from in every dynamic, monogamous, alternative lifestyle, and you're so right. It is troubling. They think that it's just going to solve itself, and nothing solves itself. And I was raised in an environment that when I tell my story to people, number one, they either think that I'm a pathological liar, just plain and simple. They're like, that could not have happened. All of this could not have happened to one person. And I'm like, well, here it goes. Number two, that I have so many people. How did you come out normal? Hell, I don't know. Am I normal? I don't know what the hell normal is. I just trying to survive. But in relationships, I had no guidance when it came to positive relationships because everything around me was so toxic. And so I really wanted to try to learn to communicate and try to learn to fight fair. But in doing that, I was failing tremendously because I have ADHD and I would forget things, or something would make me mad. And so instead of telling my partner about it, I would let it ruminate. And then before you know it, we're fighting about the dishwasher and a fork in the sink when it's not really about the fork in the sink. It's about everything else but the fork in the sink. And now we're going head to head about this damn fork in the sink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we have to learn to make space to talk about those things. And so when I was creating the fight journal, I actually created this for me and my previous partner because I was like, we have to figure out how to fight. This is just stupid. And then I was sharing it with my clients and like, oh, you should write a book about that. And I was like, maybe I should, because if it helps me, hopefully it can help other people. And so the rules of the anti-fight journal, we have a space in there. So we're going to fight. I call them fight nights because we're trying not to fight, and everybody loves some good makeup sex. So that's where the name came from, because I don't care if we're just talking. We could be fighting. Wink, wink. Have some good makeup sex. And so, let me ask you guys this. Is there something that your partner does that really irritates you, but maybe you haven't ever told them and you just let the day go on and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger? And then again, at the end of the night, you're just like, what the hell? What? And you're fighting over a fork in the sink, and it's not about that. It was about something that happened yesterday or 3 days ago.
Do you want a list?
Has that ever happened to y'all?
I try not to do that
Actually,
because I know those things do have a tendency to sneak up on me. So I try to communicate right away if there's something that bothers me. But you keep things in, and you keep things in. Not me.
I think for me, that the only thing that comes to mind was the interrupting, which we've already talked about. Like when you are talked over and then it happens repeatedly, and then you feel like you're not important, you're not seen, and you're not heard. And then, pretty soon you're fighting over the fork in the sink.
Yes. So the way I designed my journal is you have a space where you can write down anything that bothers you during the week. And so this is for monogamous couples, throuples, pods, however you want to use this book. So you're going to write down, it irritated me when you didn't let me finish the sentence about such and such. And you just write it down. It irritates me when you don't let me finish sentences, or it irritates me when you do this, or it really pisses me off when you did that. But what it does is in that time period, it wasn't the right time for us to bring it up then, because we may be at an event, right? We may be at some sort of thing and our partner does something and you're like, this motherfucker here, right? But we can't say anything because we have to have this professional outside persona, right? But it still ruminates. So what I love about the fight journal is we get to write it down. We write it down, we get it out of our head, down on paper, and we know it's going to be talked about on our fight night. We have predetermined dates. I have some couples that do it weekly. I have some couples that do it monthly, whatever you feel like your conflict level is. And you know that your concern is going to be written down in the book and it's going to be addressed on fight night. Out of your head, down on paper. There's a place for you to sign it too, because putting your signature, little initials or whatever on it makes you own that. So if Liv says, you know what, when you did this or that, it really upset me, and you sign it, you're putting your stamp on there saying, I'm owning this. This is what I felt terrible about. When fight night rolls around, you're going to have a space where right now it has a space for 3 partners. You can add as many partners as you want, but you're going to write down what irritated you the most. What I have found is couples go back and they look at their book and they look at all of the little irritants that made them mad throughout the week or throughout the month. And they're like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. And I was just being a little petty about that. We won't talk about that. We need to talk about this big thing here. And so all of the things that we've written down, really, we got them out of our head and down on paper. So we weren't ruminating about them. And then they weren't really that important.
No, not me. I will stay mad. I will be ready for fight night.
Well, I guess it depends.
I will be jumping rope, listening to Eye of the Tiger, putting my gloves on.
I know many times I've put things down and then I was like, this is stupid. I sound like an idiot. I'm not going to tell anybody about this.
This is very interesting to me, though, because we have, at the beginning of our relationship, we found that we were doing that thing where you let things build up until you're fighting over the fork in the sink. And so then we started having weekly meetings. So it was like, just, all right, this is the time that we can just bring up anything throughout the week that bothered us or something that we'd like to change, whatever, what was good, what was bad. And then after a little while, it got to the point where it's like, okay, nobody wanted to bring anything up, at least not first, because you don't want to be the one that's always starting something. But I think that's very interesting to think about writing something down. And then I think for me personally, that would be especially helpful because I like to see patterns. So it's like, if I'm getting upset every single day about the fork in the sink, well, what is it about that thing that is bothering me? Am I feeling disrespected? Am I just being petty? So I really like that idea of writing it down, and then
I feel like
you can decide whether you want to bring it up or not.
About once a month, and we talk about stuff, and I write my things down. And when the time rolls on, what's the saying here? Yeah. I look at my list, and 90% of it is stupid. Stupid stuff.
I go
like you're saying.
I don't know. It seems like to me I get worse. Like Char always says, "Stay out of your head because it's a bad neighborhood."
Well, maybe because mine are very small.
You left the fork in the sink because, and that's because,
really?
And the reason is because by the time you're the devil, by the time
you know what, you do that. Like stuff comes out now. Like you heard it here.
Yeah. It snowballs in his mind.
He does do that, and that's why I notice when he gets like this, and I have a tendency to push for him to talk, because I know that if I let him, he will just make this big thing in his mind, and no, it's bad.
The second part of this is when you write something negative, the journal also requests that you write something positive about your partner.
That's good.
What if there's nothing positive?
Because there's always something positive. If not, you better make that shit up.
Right.
You have so much room for improvement.
He learned that from another episode, and he's been using it ever since.
I'm sure he has. When we sit down and we've talked about our iMessages, or we get 5 minutes to talk about it. Timers are very important. And then our other partners are going to get some time to reflect. Important topic, like what I heard you say was this. Did I hear that correctly? Was there anything that I left out? Are there any parts that I didn't get that you feel like I need to understand better? So not only are we hearing our partners, we're asking some important questions. The first partner, you have up to 15 minutes to clarify. So we can talk about it, we can clarify, we can ask questions, and we can figure out that topic. Now, there may be 3 topics for you guys because there's 3 of you, and that's perfectly fine. Each one of you are going to go through the same process. Here is what I love the most. I love this book. I just keep saying that because I mean, yes, I wrote it, but also this helps me in relationships.
I love it.
Is there's a place on here for us to write subtopics. How often do we start talking about one thing and we end up all the way over there about something else?
Yep.
Very often.
And so, right? And one of the ways that we have to stay on topic is to make sure that if it is a subtopic, obviously it needs to be talked about because it's on our hearts, it's on our mind. So we're going to put it in the subtopic box and we're going to move forward. We'll talk about it later. Maybe we'll revisit it at the end of this, but these 5 to 15 minutes are meant for this one topic. At the very end, after we've all talked and we've all got our resolutions, there are some reflection questions. And what did we accomplish? Did we accomplish our goal? What positives resulted? What negatives resulted? And what's our plan of action moving forward? This is imperative because how many times, if you're me, I forget everything. And so we may have a topic and we may have decided that we were going to do something and then I forget. And so I'm like, oh, crap, what did we say? I can go back to this journal and say, oh yeah, we talked about it here and this was our plan of action. I can go to you and say, hey, can we renegotiate this? Because this isn't working for me right now. But it's in the book and I know that we've talked about it and here's our plan of action. So we can't go back and say, you never told me this. We never talked about this. And it completely eliminates gaslighting. And I don't think that gaslighting, and I say that gaslighting can be used maliciously, but sometimes gaslighting happens because we just simply forget.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I like it. I can't wait to put my hands on this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Practical approach to fighting.
It's just one of those tools that just gives you an alternative to what we've been taught and just to look at things a little bit differently.
I love it.
And I like that it's something that we can do, all 3 of us, because I hear about it all the time, the triangulation in throuples, like how people have a tendency, the dyads, to like, oh, you tell him or you tell her and all that. So that eliminates all of that. This is great.
Yeah. And most things are only designed for couples. So like it's always so limiting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, like I said, there's a part for 3 partners. And again, I have some people, I originally designed this as it being a living document for the couple or the throuple or for everybody. It lives in a place where it's can be seen, it can be touched, it can be picked up, it can be written in by everybody. But then I've had some couples who are like, oh no, I need my own because I have too much to put in there. So
I was curious.
I
was going to ask you later. Yeah. Is it something that you recommend for just one for the unit or for each? So
that really depends on your style.
Either or. Yeah. No, like does each individual need one or each like throuple or quad or whatever? So, and you're saying it just kind of varies from one relationship to another?
Absolutely. I had made it in mind or designed it in mind to where I could get to it at any time to remember things that I forgot. So if my partner has their book away, but then again, I started thinking about it. If we're on the same fight night, I can put the same things in my journal and still remember it and put it in my own words. So it can work either way.
I love that this came out of something that's so personal to you. Like,
it is very personal.
Something
very
you
personal.
wish existed and then you made it exist. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Going back into the fighting fair, how many times are we not listening? How many times are we circling around the same things? And understanding how you listen and understanding how you perceive and interact and how you digest information, I feel like is crucial. Again, they didn't teach that in English class. That definitely wasn't in my PE class on how to handle all of these emotions. But the I messages, what I love about them is it allows me to tell you and to give you exact feelings. We're not going to use mad, sad, pissed off, angry. Those are like the regular words. We're going to use words like disappointed, disrespected, unheard, unappreciated, because those are the words, when we get down to the molecular level, those are the words that's going to make change in our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've actually noticed, and I myself have a hard time sometimes putting words to my feelings. And recently I found something like a feeling wheel online, which was very, very helpful. It started from like basic feelings, then spread out to more in-depth feelings. It was very interesting.
There's a wheel there on camera.
Yes, that's the one. Yes.
Yes.
Amazing.
It is in the book.
Awesome.
Perfect. It was very helpful for me. I was moving through the colors and I was like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. It's perfect. Yes.
It really is. And it gives that exact language to our feelings. And so we're not having to guess. Because me being pissed off and me being disappointed are two different things.
That's right.
I can be pissed off because I'm disappointed. But if I get down to it and I'm like, you know what? I'm really angry because you disappointed me or I felt disrespected. That's what made me angry. That's when we start communicating on a whole other level with our partners.
That's true. Another thing that I'm thinking about, and I was saying that Char and Josh don't do a very good job about expressing their feelings right away. I would love for them to do that more often, because then it will give me an opportunity to fix the things that I am doing wrong. So I feel like when they're not telling me something that I did wrong for whatever reason, then I am not giving the opportunity to fix it.
I understand that. But Josh just said that
I support that. Express your emotions.
He likes to just get in there and grind in.
Yeah.
Something that I've realized too is that just because I'm feeling something, I tend to look at all sides before I really get emotional about something or confront somebody on something. It's like, okay, you did this. And then I look at it like, well, did you do anything wrong? And oftentimes, no, they didn't do anything wrong. But I'm learning that if something makes me feel a certain way, I still have a duty to them to communicate that. Like, hey, when you did this, when you left the fork in the sink, that wasn't wrong, but it made me feel this way. And then, and by me not communicating that, I'm doing them and our relationship a disservice, because I'm hiding something and I'm not letting our relationship be what it could be.
I feel like I just need a little time to confer with my counsel. So I talked to my lawyer, Paul Mitchell, in the shower. And he thinks about it for a while, but lets me know what I should say later at a later time.
To your defense, I was quite the opposite, like immediately reacting. And I've learned from both of you, to wait and think about it, and then realize that maybe it wasn't so big. So it was a good lesson for me.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a balance.
You know, also a beautiful thing about non-monogamy is you and your partner or partners decided to do this together. You decided to enter into this world that you've never been in before. And so many times I have couples that are so angry or so hurt by their partners doing something. However, here's the thing. They've negotiated the boundaries. They know their agreements. They know their rules, and they stayed within those. But when the partner did something and it upset the other one or the others, they didn't know how to handle those emotions. And so they get so angry about it. And I have to have them step back. You decided to do this together. You decided that this was what was going to be best for all of you. So you cannot get mad if that individual person stayed within everything you agreed upon, all of the boundaries, rules, and agreements, and then you had a reaction to it. That jealousy or whatever you felt, that's yours to own, and you have to own that. That is not your partner's. And so when we feel that, we have to ask ourselves, why did I feel that way? What caused me to have that kind of reaction, and take ownership of that. And so many times, in so many different dynamics, people do not take ownership of their negative feelings and their negative behavior in reaction to something that their partner was just doing that they had already agreed upon.
That's so true.
Yes. Couple to Throuple.
Yeah.
We saw it. Did you watch it? Did you watch Couple to Throuple on Peacock?
I have not yet. Funny story. My bartender was telling me I went to get I go to this pizza place, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, did you see that?" And I was like, "No, I haven't, but I'm going to watch it soon."
Yes.
Yeah. There's a couple there. Rahman and I don't remember their names.
Yeah,
there's a gay couple there, and exactly what you said. Like, one of them has huge issues and insecurities and jealousy, but blames the other one for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
All that's going to do, and that's one of those things where we talk about earlier when we were talking about it's going to rip open all the Band-Aids.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to feel things you've never felt. Even if you say, "Oh, I'm not a jealous person," well, you just wait till you see your partner do this, or you wait till you see your partner do that, whatever this or that is, and you have that tightness in your chest, and you're like, "What the hell?" Like, "Oh my gosh, don't ever do that again." Well, it was within the boundaries. It was within the rules. So if it bothers you, then we need to renegotiate that. That's another thing. We always grow. Our boundaries, rules, and agreements grow constantly, and so the journal allows you to navigate that, and allows you to say, okay, we did decide on this, but emotionally, I cannot handle that. So we need to renegotiate that.
Right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because, even as humans, like, we are all constantly growing and changing and
evolving.
Yeah. And so even if you don't change relationship dynamics to open up to non-monogamy or something, your needs throughout the relationship are still going to change. So I'm really glad that you touched on that. And yeah, there's so many different factors that can,
especially with non-monogamy, there's things that you could even foresee that come up, and then you're like, wow, I really did not like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I'm sure that happened to everyone.
Yeah. And you want to hold a grudge about it, but it's like, you can't, because who could foresee this? You just talk about it and say, let's not do that again. Let's not go down that avenue. Let's do something different and renegotiate the contract, as you say.
That's awesome.
But that's a very mature way to look at it. And people entering into this lifestyle who have not discovered their maturity. And I'm not saying that as if it's a bad thing. I mean, I was emotionally immature till I was well into my 40s. And that was because I'd never been taught any other way. So unless you are taught to look at yourself in those self-reflecting mirrors that shine back, and I call them the funhouse mirrors, because you're going to see yourself in all different varieties. And if you're not taught to look at yourself like that, then all it's going to do is tear you apart. I am way into my 40s and I am trying to learn so much about myself. But also I have a daughter and I have a son, and I have to teach them how to do this stuff, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing the first decade of their life. I was just trying to figure it out. And now I'm trying to change my patterns so they can see how to do it in a healthy manner, and they are just killing it. My son is 22, my daughter's 17, and they are killing it.
Nice.
And I
That's
love
awesome.
that, because they can have that conversation with their partners in that open, honest way that I never knew how to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very hopeful for this generation that's being raised up right now, for the world that they're going to live in. Like a few years ago, around the time our kids were born, it was like, oh my God, like, what is this? What did we bring them into? But now it's like, I'm seeing so many people that are willing to put in the work, and they're healing, and they're recognizing patterns that they were raised with that they are changing now. It's like, okay, I'm seeing good things in the future here.
Absolutely. And we get such a bad rap to millennials. And granted, there are some things that are bad about millennials. I'll give them that. However, one thing that they are fantastic and amazing at is their sexual maturity and their sexual openness, and they don't give a damn what you have. They just want to know you as a person.
Yeah.
They want to love you as a person. It doesn't matter what you have in your pants. And they have taught us so much about that openness and that love and that acceptance. And I can't praise them enough on opening up the world's mind that it's okay to be different.
That's right. That's an amazing message, and I love it.
Just accept everybody.
Yeah.
I have a question in closing. Would you like to tell us your story? Because ever since you mentioned it, I can't stop thinking about it. You said your story is like something we'll never believe. I want to hear it.
Absolutely. So it's a doozy. Every day from the time I was 4 until I was 10 years old, I was sexually molested or raped. I was removed. I was raised on a methamphetamine farm. I was removed from that house at the age of 10 and given to foster care. My aunt and uncle, which they ended up raising me. And again, I was always searching for something because I didn't know what I was looking for. I put myself in some situations where I was raped many times and sexually assaulted, and I thought that's what men needed to do, and that just had to give you my body because that's what I was told I always had to do. And even moving into just today, just the things that I am, and I accept everybody and I love everybody and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and that bites me in the ass so much, but I'm not ever going to change that about myself. So there are so many. I have brothers in prison. I have 5 older brothers, 1 younger one, and I'm the only girl. And so 3 of them are in prison, and it's because of drugs and alcohol. They chose that way. I chose a different way. I chose education. And man, the story just goes on and on and on. But you know what? That's me. That's my story now. And it's become such a part of me that I can just openly talk about it, and it doesn't have any visceral response, or it doesn't have any negative feelings to me, because honestly, it made me who I am today. And it made me to where I can see things in a way that most people can't. And I would never change that.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. What is it that made you be different? What do you think it was? Was it something like, I don't want to be like them, or?
I didn't know any other way. I didn't know that that wasn't normal. And so I had an older brother. My oldest brother went into the Air Force, and he died when I was 8 years old. The last time I saw him, I was 7. And I didn't read well. I didn't learn how to read. I was in special education classes all through elementary, middle school, and high school. I just wasn't a smart person. And he sat me down one day and he was reading me a book, and he goes, "You know, this isn't normal." He goes, "This isn't how we have to be." He goes, "I just want you to read, and I want you to get as high as you can in your education." He died 4 months later, and I never stopped after that. He's always been my person. And so when I feel like, I never feel good enough. I have imposter syndrome. I never feel good enough. And, I have to do more and more and more. And for once in my life, this past year, I finally felt like I didn't have to be somebody. I could just be me. And that was liberating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Stephanie,
thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
What a great story.
Excellent story. I love it. And I believe all of it.
Yes. And thank you for putting in the work to heal yourself and to overcome all of those challenges and bring your work to all of us.
Where can our listeners get the book?
You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on my website, evolveyourintimacy.com. I see clients individually, like I said, pods, couples, throuples. If you want to, if you feel like you need some help, if you just need someone to talk to, I am an open book. I share my story with everybody, because sometimes when I start to share my story, somebody's like, "Oh, okay, so you get it. So I can tell you what happened to me." And I don't take that lightly. When someone opens up to me and shares their trauma, that is such a gift, because I know it took them so much to be able to tell me. And that's one of the things that I really hit on with all the work I do, is that your trauma does not define you, but it can refine you. And I want to help it refine you and make you the best person you can be.
Yeah,
that's great.
So well put. We're gonna link your book in the show notes for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna send you guys some. I'm gonna send you 3.
Oh,
thank you.
Sign them.
Yeah, we want signs. Little lipstick kiss on there. We showed everybody.
Perfect.
Don't think I won't.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's serious.
Wonderful. I can do that. Guys, this has been amazing. Thank y'all for having me on.
Thank you.
Taking
You have a
the time to learn
podcast
about
as
me.
well. Can we just yell that out to the listeners?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Evolve Your Intimacy with Dr. Stephanie. And I have to admit that I have not been as diligent as I need to be with getting episodes up, because I do everything myself. So I run my clinic. I see 40 clients a week. I travel all over the world. I go on the Bliss Cruise. I go to resorts. People, I always say they buy me. People buy me to come teach them about sex. But,
Yeah, we were
Just,
listening to
makes me
your
feel
episode where you had Dr. Danielle Kramer on it. It was such a great episode. Actually, she's
Yes,
coming on
yeah.
our podcast next week. So we're really looking forward to having her
Oh
on.
my gosh, she's one of my very best friends. Tell her, yeah, she's legitimately one of my very best friends.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
She's amazing.
Well,
Yay! I'm
Thank
so
you
glad y'all
again.
got
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you.
If you like our episodes, subscribe to our channel and share them with people just like yourselves.
If you are in a throuple, please head over to Facebook and join Throuple Talks Connection Hub to connect with us and other throuples.
And we'll see you next time.